Dr. Doering, great to have you on our program, The Business Detective. How long have you been in Sri Lanka and what has been your experience so far?
Yeah. Good afternoon, Dinesh. Thank you for having me on your show here. Now, I came to Sri Lanka approximately 40 years before. 40 years. And I came on an invitation of the Minister of Sports at the time. And he asked me whether I could train the Sri Lankan national team in table tennis. So I did that. I planned to be here for 2 years. And ultimately, I'm here now for 37 years. So I was then ultimately engaged in sports tourism and built my own resorts here. And now I'm still here.
So, Doctor, I know you have a lot of interest in tourism. Given the challenges we are currently facing, how do we get out of this crisis?
Yeah, Dinesh, that is a good question, a very open question. And for me, no need to explain the present status of the Sri Lankan economy. Everyone knows where we stand at this point, and millions experiencing the misery. Now, I don't want to, on your question, no need of presenting general phrases or verbal commitments, but actions. That is what is needed. We have many burning issues here, and there must be a solution by finding an immediate kickstart of one of the economic sectors. And we have analyzed that in cooperation with the University of Colombo. I'm involved in a research project and the economic department on special research subjects on tourism. And when we analyzed which of the three main GDP contributors could be the Kickstarter. So the three ones are export on one, for position one, foreign employment, and then comes tourism. So when we analyzed it, we thought that export is a bit difficult. They have multiple challenges. The foreign employment is on the way. There's some movements. And then, but we found that tourism has a lot of advantages, which could be a qualification for a kickstart. Also, in economic terms speaking, everything is depending on demand and supply. So when it comes to tourism, what has tourism in Sri Lanka on the supply line? Now we have everything. Even we don't have gas, we don't have electricity, we have multiple problems, but the supply, that's that what on the demand side is requested and required, is available. For example, 1,200 kilometers pristine beaches, they are there, ready to use. Fauna and flora, wildlife, we have a fantastic wildlife, heritage sites, friendly native people here, so it's a great factor. I will come to that a little later. The smile of the children. So with our research subject, and we are in that for the last 3 to 4 years, we have conducted perceptual analysis of inbound tourists to Sri Lanka in the airport. And this outcome of that is not surprising to me, because I'm here for 40 years, but maybe very surprising for many Sri Lankans and also those who are in charge of tourism development. For example, 80% of all tourists, out of the 2.7 million what you have, they are very, very pleased with the friendly, cordial attitudes what the native Sri Lankan people show towards tourists. So when you once in a while you hear some little, let's say, spicy news about some negative things, that is not very relevant. When 80% of all tourists who are coming to Sri Lanka are happy on that line, that is one outstanding importance. And the other second most important outcome of the survey is that even 80%, same quota, is extremely touched by the fauna and flora. Now you have two key points which Sri Lanka tourism development should use for the promotion. But there are certain blockers. We have certain, I would say, tumbling blocks, which had not been recognized very much. But in our research and in our findings on the questionnaire, we have identified one thing, that is the exorbitant, expensive airfares, which could be addressed. For example, a flight from Frankfurt to Sri Lanka over the last 3 years was average 200 euros more expensive than a flight from Frankfurt to Bangkok or to Kuala Lumpur or even to Vietnam. So that means Bangkok is 2,000 kilometers more far away than Sri Lanka. So how comes that these flights from Frankfurt to Bangkok are 200 euros cheaper? Now, when we think of first-time travelers, yeah, I mean, even Elon Musk and Zuckerberg and all these people, one time at the beginning, they were first-time travelers. So if we see that first-time travelers will make a big row around Sri Lanka simply because the airfare is so expensive. Yeah? So we must try to win them. In our research also, we have looked on the tourism in Vietnam, and we have done a comparison study, Vietnam and Sri Lanka. Why we have selected Vietnam is that Vietnam had a similar historic background when it comes to a war situation in Vietnam. More than 30 years, they had a terrible war with the United States and France, terrible bombings, and so very bad situation for them. Sri Lanka, a little bit similar. They also had an internal conflict, not that drastic, but both countries had something in common. When it comes to annual tourist arrivals, now I'm talking about 2018. So that means before the Easter bombings, before the pandemic, and we compare both countries, then you can see that Vietnam has drawn 18 million annual arrivals to Vietnam, while in Sri Lanka we have only 2.7. We have tried to analyze what is the difference and why this difference is huge. Difference is existing, and there are reasons for that. One reason I told you is the airfares, and there's another important thing. Now I'm here at the moment. I'm here in Radisson Blu, beautiful hotel, fantastic, a beautiful view to the ocean just right from me. But I'm in the off season here. Now there is an off-season misnomer, or you can call it even an off-season misconception, which carries Sri Lanka for the last 30 years, 40 years, since they start tourism. Off-season is a killer. Off-season kills the hospitality sector. And there are sectors in the economy, mainly the foreign tour operators, who are benefited by this misconception. Because what they do is they turn the room rates down. So they come and say, you have off-season 6 months from that and this month, you give us special rates. I felt very sorry when I was during the months in the East Coast. You have so wonderful, beautiful boutique hotels in Pasikuda, 5-star hotels. I was there in November last year. And when I spoke to the hotel managers, I asked, what is your occupancy? Blue sky, fantastic ocean, and they said 5%, 6%, 7%. So how can you come in a profit zone when you have 6 months virtually no turnover, no occupancy? So my proposal, our proposal from the researchers' point of view is the deciders, Sri Lanka Tourism Ministry, and then the subordinate Sri Lanka Tourism Development. What you need is to look into these stumbling blocks and try to set up task forces who are working on that and try to remove it. Not easy, but at least there should be someone who's working on that. We have presented it to many administrations earlier, but we did not get the expected reply. But now there is something, I feel a little changes there. So these are the key stumbling blocks, what we have to remove. First, the airfare immediately, and whether foreign, say, rating agencies, or now you have multiple countries are saying, giving a warning notice, don't travel Sri Lanka. The FITs, they are not considering that. They come. If there's an attractive airfare, they come. You have a huge SME hospitality sector here. Over 50% of rooms what you have offered in Sri Lanka are in the SME sector. Booking.com, Airbnb, and so on. And these small business in the hospitality sector, they are very, very concentrative on giving the guests a very comfortable stay. They do everything because they know repeating clients come only when they experience a very good first time. So there's nothing to worry. And for example, now just small medium enterprises in general in India, all together, the small dealers, the traders, and all over, they're contributing to over 50% of India's GDP. So if that can also be considered in the task forces, I think we're on a good step. But kickstarting now, no more talking, no general phrases, we have to kickstart. So I mean, immediately creating a task force in the Sri Lankan tourism ministry, and then look into the airfares first. And then on a little longer track, remove the off-season misnomer or misconception. Then we are on a good track.
Yeah. Doctor, I have 2-3 other questions before we close this program. The next one is, Germans have a lot of interest in Sri Lanka. They have invested in tourism projects, in manufacturing facilities, etc., etc. How do we attract more Germans to come and invest here?
The investment in form of economic investments in business ventures and so on might be at this stage a bit difficult. But I'm looking at one situation in Europe, and that is for Sri Lanka also important to know. In Europe, we are facing at the moment a very drastic economic and political downturn. Now, by October, November, you will see that will reflect in the business data, and it's very obvious. So at this moment, I don't see, realistically spoken, a great chance that we can attract investors who are investing in Sri Lanka. But there is a segment, again in tourism, which we are categorizing under permanent tourism. So we have a trend in Europe, in Germany in particular, for migration. These are senior citizens who are not very comfortable due to the political and economic situation, who are looking for a second home program. So here in Sri Lanka, we have everything what these people need. And they are not looking for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. They're looking for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. And they come with their budgets. They come also with their money. And they are very peaceful and they are wonderfully matching. So permanent tourism, with the focus on attracting senior citizens to come to Sri Lanka, stay here, even get a care program in case that they need that, is probably a prospective focus on what we can focus at the moment. Permanent tourism, attracting foreign retirees to come here. There's a good chance.
Yeah. Doctor, I know you're also interested in skills development and you're also engaged in education. What do you think of our skill levels and how do we improve it?
I am very pleased and astonished of the professors, lecturers, which I have got to know. You have fantastic brains in the Sri Lankan universities. And I would also say, in Sri Lanka, there's a trend always on getting foreign advisors, experts. You don't need that. You have brilliant brains, let's say for the University of Colombo, where I'm attached to, in the economic departments, professors who know exactly they could contribute. So I would really recommend your government to include them in the task forces, and do not rely on so much on foreign on rating agencies and all that. That is a temporary issue what we have with rating agencies in particular. Now Sri Lanka is rated, downgraded, and maybe you are in junk status now. That is temporary. That is not forever. And rating agencies also. Remember when we had the 2008 crisis and the international rating agencies, they gave a AAA to Lehman Brothers, and 2 months later, Lehman Brothers went bankrupt. So AAA, 3 months later, they went bankrupt. So we should not consider. You have manpower, you have brilliant brains, and the education system here in Sri Lanka I would say, as a German, I was a lecturer in a business college in Germany. Your education system is better than that, what we have on offer in Germany.
Okay.
So I tell that with a real confidence, because I have experience here. And I see what is happening in the schools. I have children, and I see what is required from them. Even teachers now, they do these Zoom meetings and all that. So I'm impressed. You don't have to worry about that part. That is in place.
Okay, great to hear that, Doctor. My final question to you is, you have made Sri Lanka your second home. What do you like so much about Sri Lanka for you to stay here?
I can tell you, Dinesh, I am very touched by the empathy level what Sri Lankans have. Now one cause may be that you have a 3-generation system here. Now you have the grandparents, the parents, and the children as intact family cells. These systems are very important for the development of a healthy society. You have that. In the Western world, elderly people are in the tendency more likely kept in elderly homes, separated from their children and so on. That is a very acid attitude. Here in Sri Lanka, the empathy is very well placed. And I say that also because I have university students, a lot of interns from German universities. And once I had an intern who fell from the push cycle, and she had some injuries, a girl was it, 19 years old girl. And it took maybe 20 seconds. The villagers came and helped her and put the bicycle back and all that. If this thing happens in Germany or in France or in another country, you will not have that instant offering of help and support. So the empathy level here in Sri Lanka is my hope that when you have the changes happening now, the empathy level survives and there will not be a revolutionary type of actions like in other countries where lootings happen and all that. You have that empathy line, and I hope that this will also prevent an out of control running type of changes here in Sri Lanka.
Okay, so thank you, Doctor. It was great talking to you, and I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Dinesh, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.